Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Paranormal Karen, funny too. Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Oh, and did I mention she's funny too? Yeah, cha-cha-cha.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Paranormal Karen. Let's do the housework real quick. You can join my email list at karenrontowski.com. You can follow me on Instagram at Rontowski, TikTok, all the good psychic stand-up clips, and join my Patreon. I am going to jump right in, folks. Today, just remember this, sentientclearing.org. My friend Pip recommended this to me. I feel like I'm saying this like it's a dirty word, and it's not, but there is something free coming up. Okay. So I want you to listen. My guest today is Katrina Wynn. Katrina, did I say your last name right?
Absolutely correct.
Yay. So somebody told me about you and they said, Karen, you have to go to this website. This woman does free energy clearings on Wednesday and it's only like 20 minutes. And I'm going to tell everyone, if you're going to do that, there is every time I tell you that, I'm going to also tell you there's a donation button on the bottom, $25, something like that, where you can do that. She said, you got to go to this lady, Katrina. I don't know what you did, but I immediately went back and made a second appointment because you do a clearing that is, I didn't have to tell you what I was thinking about. We didn't have to go into my childhood. We didn't have to do any of that. So before we get to your magic, let's start with how did you get into this clearing business? How did you start?
Okay. Well, of course, that's a wonderful story. You know how we all have the twists and turns as we follow the pebbles in our pathway. So I have one of those stories. But before we do that, I just want to shift one thing is
Sure.
when you said I do energy clearings, what I can say is I do support people in their own clearings, and I don't do anything other than facilitate. So I can't take any kind of credit for that because we are each so amazingly powerful within ourselves. So back to your question. So what led me on this pathway, these pebbles, is maybe like some of your listeners, I was very tuned to energy as a young child and observant, and also, you know, as a little girl, I had a nice little protective bubble around me because the world can be a little weird sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And then later on, I actually studied some formal energy work, such as I studied Jinshin Do with Aina Tiergarten, and then later on studied a little bit of Reiki and also studied a little bit of the reconnection. But what really resonated with me was in 2018, I was introduced to the work of John Newton, Health Beyond Belief, at healthbeyondbelief.com. And by the way, he does free world sessions every month. Mm-hmm. And you can just go to that website, healthbeyondbelief.com, and sign up each month to be on the list for that specific group. He does group clearings, but he also spends the first 30 minutes just talking about a topic and how it relates to the work. So that's a wonderful teacher of mine. Now, in the meantime, I also studied the energy codes with Dr. Sue Morter and became a facilitator in her work. And that all tied in with the fact that I had just retired from being I'll just say a mental spiritual counselor who studied and practiced psychotherapy, and specifically had worked with Doctors Arnold and Amy Mindell with process work psychology. And that's where I learned about the sentient body. And that's why I call it the sentient clearing, because I understand from a Jungian point of view, and when I say that, I mean Carl Jung, the whole idea of the dreaming body. In fact, when Arnold Mindell first started this work, he called it dream body work. And what he was noticing, and this is what I tie into the work that John Newton teaches. What I learned from Newton is a structure, and I align with his philosophy. But it's really my practice and experience and process work that allow me to truly grasp and utilize what Jung was tapping into and that Arnold Mindell took even further, which is the fact that we are in a dream. We are the dream, you see? And when we have symptoms in the body, it's like the dreaming is trying to get our attention some way or another. So if we pay attention to the symptoms in the body, it is the body's way of communicating. And then I even have a beautiful quote here from John Newton, which it just says it so beautifully. Let me see if I can find it here. He's saying that, well, I'm just going to paraphrase. He says that you need to live from your heart, not your old programming. And so when you think about it, and of course we do use our mind sometimes, and they're useful, but as Dr. Sue Morter would say, the mind is to be the helping person, or the helping spirit, as I like to say. It's not meant to run the show. What we're doing through all this work is learning how to trust the body, even down to the cellular memory and the epigenetics, recognizing that we are like little computers that had all the software and programming imposed upon us, not only in this lifetime, but also previous lives of our ancestors, our relations, and if people believe in past lives, it can also be from past lives. And so now the body has these memories. People even think of our auric bodies and how memories and experiences can penetrate the different auras until it gets down to our physical body, which then the physical body says, hey, I have this terrible symptom. Again, it's a cry for help. It's a cry for attention. And we all, and this is what most of my teachers say, if not all of them, we all have the ability to naturally heal ourselves. But what our teachers or guides are here to do is to help us learn or remember how to listen to the body, how to listen to ourselves. And this is where the Jungian ideas come in that I align with so much. It's like I was just a couple of days ago watching this little interview clip with Carl Jung, and maybe other people have seen this before. The interviewer basically asks, did you believe in God as a child? And of course, a lot of us know that Jung's father was a minister. And he says, yes, as a child, I believed in God. And then the interviewer asks, and do you believe in God now? And Jung pauses, and he says something about, well, that's a complicated topic. And he pauses a little bit more, and he says, no, I do not believe in God. I know God. And therein lies the difference, is when we can go back to our beliefs and realize our beliefs themselves are the very things that hold us back sometimes. A lot of times the beliefs are generated by what Dr. Sue calls our protective personality, which is our ego. The ego remembers how we got harmed in the past, whether it's in this lifetime or in our past, in our relations, our ancestors. And it says, hey, we're not going to let that happen again. So we're going to put this block up, and we're going to try to protect you this way, and we're going to create these fears, and we're going to stay away from those situations, and, et cetera, et cetera. Really meant to help us to survive, of course. But at the same time, not believing that we actually are, and this is a more positive, life-affirming belief, that we are all aspects of God or Creator. We are all perfect, and we all have the ability to be in our most, I'll just say, healthiest, flowing, complete selves. In fact, even Jung in his process called it the individuation process, where we are, sometimes he would use the analogy of an onion, and we're taking off these layers, and it's what Dr. Sue calls the gunk. And the layers and the gunk is all the film that made us not believe in ourselves and not be in touch with our hearts. And that kind of goes back to what John Newton was saying about trusting our hearts and being in tune with our hearts, as opposed to letting our minds go, minds go wild, minds worry. Minds say, oh, I can't do this and I can't do that because of the old programming of the fears of the other people around us. So this is amazing work, and it shows up in different forms and different teachers. This just happens to be what I have put together.
Now, when I love this, this is a statement I haven't visited in a while that I love, that this is the dream, and the dream world is the reality? Can you expand on that a little bit?
Well, actually, I I have another quote from John.
Sure.
And this is kind of like his way of saying it. And I hope it's okay to say John instead of John Newton, and that you'll know who I'm talking about.
Sure. We are not detail-oriented on this. We believe you.
Okay. Well, whatever.
Right.
Believe or not, it's okay. It's fine. So he says, creators, not in time and space. Time and space is in creator. So, and then I kind of go back to Hinduism a little bit, and also back to the Aboriginal people of Australia. If we're all part of the dreaming, we're all just fractals of the dream. We're all characters in the dream. And so that means we are the characters in the larger dream, but we, as the characters in the dream, are also dreaming, if you can grasp that. And this kind of goes back to Plato and the idea of the projection of the images on the wall, if you can call it the wall of the cave. And this is the way John describes it sometimes in his teachings. He says, because he has a background in film, he used to be an actor. He says, when we look through life, we're looking through this film, literally this video or the movie film, but the light of source is what's shining through it. So we are source, but we are creating this film in front of us that looks like life. It looks like a movie. It looks like a story. It looks like characters. And we believe that it's real when actually it's just a movie, or it's just, as you would say, a dream.
It feels real. It feels real.
And now you're talking about the body again, aren't you? It feels real.
Yes.
Yes, but the mind works in interesting ways. And I'm just going to share something from when I used to work as a counselor. And sometimes I don't know how I kind of know. People find the people they need to work with, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like they know where to find their medicine in the moment. So I happen to have quite a few clients who fall under what used to be called multiple personality disorder, which now they call dissociative identity disorder. And what was interesting in one client in particular, their main character, the one that they would introduce themselves as and had the legal name on their birth, whatever, that person, when they would go to the doctor, had fibromyalgia. But when one of their other inner people showed up, they didn't have fibromyalgia.
Wow.
So, does the body have fibromyalgia, or is it the character in the story that believes that they have fibromyalgia? And then if you go back to the process work with the Mendel's, Arnie and Amy, what we did in that work is we had very interesting ways of tuning into the dreaming in the body so that it could have an expression. Now, why is that important? That is important because that kind of goes back to what Jung called the shadow. And so the shadow are those unknown parts of ourselves that we hide from, that we're afraid of. Again, the protective personality, the ego, suppresses. Why does it suppress it? Because of our survival needs, because of our need for love, approval, etc. So we get I'm sorry, I'm going to go all over the place.
No, go ahead. Shadow work is such a catchphrase now, but I love how you're explaining it. Everybody doesn't explain it right. So you go wherever you want. This is fantastic.
Oh, thank you. I'm hoping people follow with me, but we can always review this.
My people are so smart. They're going to follow right along.
Yes, absolutely. Yay. Thank you, folks. So from a Reichian point of view, and that would be Wilhelm Reich, who also studied with Freud, so he was sort of like a contemporary of Jung, but he was like in tarot work, and I know you do tarot work. To me, Reich was the Crowley to Jung's Arthur Edward Waite. They all exist in the same period of time, and so they have really overlapping influences. It's fascinating when you look at it. But anyway, so back to Crowley. Crowley was studying basically orgasmic energy in the body, which he called orgon energy, which is our life force. And he was studying how does our life force get blocked? And basically he called that our armoring. it's the same idea all over again, whether it's the protective personality, ego, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or whether it's our blocks or our shadow, as Jung would say, the things that keep us from seeing our whole selves, the darkness to our light. Ultimately, in every theory, in every system, every practice, they were all bringing the darkness to light. And in the most simplistic terms, what we're doing is we're bringing that darkness to the light so we can love it, because love is the light. We're no longer demonizing it. We're bringing that energy to the light.
That, I think, okay, so I'll give you sort of the snapshot TikTok, Instagram thing, how shadow work is designed, is just going,
Okay.
I think that person is a jerk because they have a big ego. Oh, that means I have a big ego. I think the other step to it, which you're saying, is either the integration or the loving it, right?
Right. That's more the process of it. And what you are describing is what some people would call projection.
Oh.
And so projection would be, I have an unowned, unknown part of myself. So I will either project it onto other people, meaning I'm interpreting their behavior in a certain way that aligns with what's known to me that helps me feel safe. Now, if you take it into the realm of the dreaming, we're going to look at it a slightly different way. What if that person is me and it's part of my dreaming self that I don't recognize? It's a fractal of myself that I have not gotten to learn or embrace yet. So it doesn't matter either way. So you can think of them as outside people, or you can think of them as inside people. And then now we get into quantum physics. I probably won't talk about that, but it's a whole nother way of looking at the same scenario or dynamic.
Okay. I'm going to take a break right now, folks. We'll be right back. And I want to dig deeper in this shadow just for a second. So everybody hang on. We'll be right back.
Hi, everybody. Do you love everything paranormal, supernatural, or otherwise spiritual?
Well, of course you do. You're listening to Paranormal Karen.
If you like some humor sprinkled into your morning commute or wherever you listen to your podcast, we don't judge. We've got the most fantastic paranormal podcast for you.
I'm Dana.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Megan. We'd love for you to join us at Supernormal on YouTube or wherever else you get your podcast fix.
Trust us, it's weird, it's wild, and a whole lot of fun.
I'm not weird, you're weird.
Okay, so a strange, trying to stay neutral. This is a great example, but so half of the people, or a bunch of people, see Donald Trump as a monster, and half see him as being from God. So when you say it's an interpretation, it's a weird way to say that, because after you said that, I was like, well, is he a person or is he just a mirror? Like, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. I'm going to just say all the above. It's all the above. And keep in mind, and I'm kind of being psychological here, each one of us, and by the way, some would say we're all connected, so I'll also say all of us as individual fractals, we perceive things subjectively. Subjectively means, again, I'm going to have my unique little personality and my unique ego and also my unique soul. And that's questionable in itself, but that's a whole nother topic. But my self, who I identify with, is going to look out at the world, collect a certain amount of information, and perceive it through my filters. Which means I'm going to maybe not see the whole of somebody else. I might only see their light or only see their dark.
Oh.
And again, does it resonate with my lightness or darkness? And am I comfortable with that? Am I willing to sit with and be with things I'm uncomfortable with?
Okay, I'm going to throw so say someone is let's take him off the table. Let's say someone is a criminal, okay? If I am triggered by that person, does it have to say, again, projection, am I mad at someone who is a criminal that is let's say he's CEO of a corporation that's ruining people? Is that
Okay.
trigger in me? Is that about I've been ruined or I want to ruin people? Does that make sense?
Right. Well, I can't tell you what it is for you, but here's a few things I can say that came up for me as you were asking that. First off, and I'm going to be very, very neutral here. I hope you don't mind.
No, be neutral.
Is just the idea of criminal is a definition that is unique from person to person. In other words, what might be a crime in one part of the world could be a celebration in another part of the world. So that's relative.
Okay.
Now,
Well,
but you're saying if this is something you perceive as criminal, that for
Okay.
you, from your point of view, is criminal, you're uncomfortable with it, it feels threatening to you, you would like it to stop, right?
Okay. Yeah.
That's kind of what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. Again, I'm going to take this back to my process work training with the Mendel's.
Okay.
And what I would do, and this is funny because we're not really talking about sentient clearing right now. We're talking about
No, but
process.
it's good. We'll get to that.
Because I don't do this in sentient clearing. And what I love about sentient clearing is it takes the head out of the equation. But right now we're exercising our minds, and that's okay.
Yes. We'll get back.
But eventually we'll get back to the relaxing the mind part. So because that's well, anyway, that's a whole nother story. But when you look at it from a process work point of view, there is the I and the not I. So the I is who I'm identified with, and the not I is pretty much everything else. So if you don't identify with being a criminal and you find that what that person did disturbing, then if we were doing some kind of, psychotherapy, we might go into what's it like to be the other character? What kind of energy do they have? We're not looking at their behavior. We're looking at the energy signature because it's the energy itself that's trying to get your attention. And it's the energy you need. So it doesn't mean, this is where people get kind of like confused. They think, ooh, does that mean I need to do that behavior and act like that person? No. But from your unique subjective point of view, what's it like to have the energy that quote unquote criminal has? So let me just make up something. Let's say the criminal went on a shooting spree. And I'm sorry, I don't want to trigger anybody. So
No. That's a good one because I was going to say a murderer or somebody that we all can look at and go,
I think, yeah, people are thinking about that. So don't think of anything personal. Please don't personalize this. If you need to, step really far away from what I'm about to say and look at it as neutrally as possible because I'm trying to make a point. So if somebody's on a shooting spree, let's say, this happens out here, by the way, where I live. I live out in the woods, and sometimes people go hunting, and they're more into the hunting than the actual collecting food, which means, I'll come across a dead animal that was shot. Now, I would be disturbed by that, right? I'm going to use me. I'm not going to use you. So if I come across a dead animal that was shot for fun and not for food, then I would maybe have a judgment about that person. I would feel bad and empathically hurt for the animal. Mm-hmm. But if I were to pick it, this is the same way I work with dreams, by the way. I'm like very, very good helping people working with dreams. So if I go into the dreaming of it, because remember, the waking life is just the same from a Jungian point of view as the sleeping dream. So if I go into, okay, what's the most disturbing part about this scene for me? Is it because the animal suffered? Is it because this person shot and they thought it was just fun? And they killed something for fun? So let's go with that for a moment. So now I might step into that character with the gun who shoots animals for fun. And I might even have, remember the movie, right? Mm-hmm. I might even have like a visual of what that person moves like. I might even have a visual of them laughing as they're doing this, what I found to be disturbing. So if I go into the not I at that moment, I step into the shoes of the hunter and I just experience it from the inside out, not the character anymore. I'm actually stepped into the energy of what that character represents. And I don't know where it's going to go, but I'm going to just try it for this moment and notice what happens.
Okay.
Ooh, I just tapped into something really deep. Okay. So I went through these different phases. And by the way, I process really quickly because I've been doing it for over 40 years.
Wow.
So me as that hunter, first, I felt like my ego shot up really big, like, wow, I got that animal. And look how good I am with my gun. And then I looked at the part that didn't want to basically skin the animal and cut the meat and pack it out. And I went, oh, but I'm too lazy. I don't want to do that part. I just needed the ego stroke. And then I went even further with that character and they went, wow. And when I was a child, I remember my parents telling me that I was no good and I'll never accomplish anything. And so really that part of me who's the hunter who wants to accomplish things by being so good at hunting is actually a hurt little, in this case it was a boy, a hurt little boy that never got approval, never felt like he was enough. So then I get to experience that part of me because it is maybe a real part of me, you see? Mm-hmm. So I'm no longer projecting it onto this other character who did the disturbing thing from my ego's point of view. I'm now realizing maybe there's a part of me that also feels like I didn't get the approval I wanted or the love that I wanted or needed. And what other things am I doing in my life to try to do that? And how can I love that part of myself so it doesn't need to act out unconsciously?
Okay.
This is one of many possible ways of taking that.
Right. And believe me, my audience can go dark and be fine. Though I think the only complaint I ever got from an episode was a flat earth episode. That they were like, no.
Okay. All right.
Which I don't
Well, you know, that I had a conversation with a friend of mine about that. It does take removing our judgment, removing our assumptions, even removing the science for a moment, and then compassionately hearing that other person going, well, where are they really coming from when they say that?
Right. They're into I can always identify to a sense of anarchy. I can always get that. But also what you were saying totally identifies with and again going dark, maybe a school shooter or somebody like that feels so outside and has so little control that that's what they do.
And as long as we keep looking at them and pointing the finger, we'll never discover the source of it within ourselves. And this is where the alchemical gold is. And again, this is back to Jung. And this is what I was just writing about because we're also tarot people. And I'm just now finishing up my level 2 from going pro with tarot. And I'm focusing on alchemy and transformation. And so when we can find our own inner gold, the Orphic Age, the Philosopher's Stone, when we can remove the impurities from our lives, meaning the programming, the darkness, the fears, the shadow, and by removing, I don't mean, and this is the other thing, when I say remove, I don't mean by getting rid of them. I truly mean transforming them, right? In other words, we embrace them, and the embrace itself transforms them. And that's what a lot of people don't realize. They go, oh, I want to get rid of this body pain. Oh, I want to get rid of this person in my life. You know, I'm sure most of us have felt this at some point or another, right?
Yep.
Well, I want that disturbing thing to go away. But what Jung and process work and studying with John Newton and everybody else, what we all align with is no, you don't throw that thing out. It's like throwing the baby out with the bathwater. No. You learn to love it because you see its vulnerability. You see what it was really, really needing that it didn't get. And you don't even have to understand it. You just love it. And then now I'm going to fast forward a little bit. And that's what attracted me to studying with John Newton, because I was already retired from counseling. It hadn't occurred to me that I would open up a whole nother practice. What I love about the Health Beyond Belief with John Newton and my work with sentient clearing is that we don't have to go into that history. We don't need to analyze things. We allow the mind or the protective personality to relax and be the helping spirit, not the one who's trying to protect us, because then it's overworked. I mean, we have a whole world, or at least the Western world, where people are overthinking, overanalyzing, and overprotecting.
Yeah.
And so through this kind of style, I'll just call it a style, this technique, it just goes right to the body. It trusts the body. And by the way, and this happens to John too. He talks about this. When somebody's new to this work, they're so used to figuring things out with their mind. Me as the facilitator, he is the facilitator, gently remind the mind to relax and trust the body, because the body is like this little child sometimes who was told to be quiet, children to be seen and not heard. And so sometimes the body is not used to speaking out for itself. And the way it speaks out, first off, is through body symptoms, honestly. That's what I've observed over many, many years, 40 years now. But also, if we pay really close attention to it, it'll show up with images, pictures, or colors, or maybe sometimes a message, a verbal message. And that in itself is taking us like a little breadcrumb back to the source of where that difficulty began. And I also like the way John Newton talks about the fact that, first off, what we're doing is we're clearing and resetting. It's not a substitute for, let's say, if there's a health issue, it's definitely not a substitute for your medical or psychological or whatever your other forms of for healing. Not a substitute, but it works with it for well-being, right? But what we're doing is we're going to the root so it doesn't need to grow back. And it's usually not from this lifetime. This lifetime is sort of like a repeat, giving us a new opportunity to be with it and hopefully transform it. So that's why when our work goes further and further back, I mean, even in my own work with my own life, I have definitely cleared some big, big things from my past. And one more thing before you ask your next question.
Okay.
What's really cool about when you go back to the root, let's say it's your ancestors and it's several generations back, then it has a positive transformational effect for all the generations working forward. And that's one of the ways we do timeline jumping, what some people call timeline jumping, because we just cleared something, so now it no longer exists, which means it doesn't exist for any of the other people who are from that lineage.
Oh, that's fantastic. Okay. Because timeline jumping, it's another one of those things where we hear do A, B, and C. And it's like, well, that doesn't always work, but that we cleared. So okay, that's fantastic.
Yes. And so, I mean, it's so precious. I've even heard my own clients say this. I remember one woman said, and she allowed me to share it. I have a little bit of it on my website, is that her ancestors showed up in a dream that night and they thanked her for doing that work.
Oh, that's amazing. Now let's, I don't even know if I want to send you in a direction because everything you're doing is so great and on point. But so folks, when you make this appointment or you do this, I'm just on the other end of the phone laying down and you say, all right, you ask me a few questions, we locate what we're doing, and then you take like 3 or 4 deep breaths. And that's it. Are you waving?
Well, they're not really deep breaths. They're slow breaths.
Slow breaths. Okay. Are you waving flags on the other end of the phone? Are you standing on your head? What's going on there?
What is the Wizard of Oz doing behind that curtain?
Yes. What is happening?
Yeah. So what I'm doing is the same thing you can do for yourself, by the way. As the facilitator, I'm kind of doing a couple of things. Of course, I'm always holding space in love and light. But in addition to that, and sometimes I do it out loud, I am tapping into a forgiveness prayer. Because what we're doing is the way we're releasing those old pains and judgments and beliefs. And everybody talks about this these days, and I'm so happy. I mean, even people have pinpointed it where Yeshua and other teachers have said this, is that when you can forgive that thing that was so hurtful, scary, harmful, or life-threatening, when you can forgive it and release it, that's all you're really doing is releasing it. You're not approving the behavior. You're saying, I no longer allow that energy to reside in my body, not in the current form. In other words, I'm not going to allow fear, and this is where the Course in Miracles comes in, and I've had the wonderful opportunity to study with Marianne Williamson on this. When you can transform that fear to love, that's the magic. And that's what we're doing in a whole nother way. We're just going back through forgiveness and releasing. And I'm not doing it. Basically, there's a relationship between me and the, I'll just say client, and the God or creator or source or universe. I even have a little person who says dragon of their understanding, you see. And so it's really me facilitating that relationship, the same way I work with tarot, by the way. It's me just facilitating the relationship with the client and source, whatever their source is. In fact, I start off by asking them, because it could change from day to day. Hey, what's your word for today? Oh, it's creator. Okay, let's use creator. Or it's source, or it's goddess. So that could be a very particular goddess.
Okay. And I'm going to take a break right here, and then we're going to come back and talk about forgiveness, because forgiveness is my obsession. I actually try to write comedy jokes about forgiveness, and it's very hard because we're not a forgiving country. Folks, hold on one second. We'll be right back. Hey, everybody, Paranormal Karen, what are you doing? Why aren't you taking CBD? Listen to me. P39CBD.com. That's where you want to go. That's where I go. That is where you're going to find the best. P39 CBD is committed to providing high-quality, premium-grade hemp extract products. P39 CBD uses organically grown industrial hemp sourced from nutrient-abundant soils right here in the USA to ensure a therapeutic-rich CBD product. Now, if you're not using them on your pets, go take a look at the website now. CBD, especially for aging pets, is fantastic, and you know how animals react way better to natural products. Get a jump on your holiday shopping and give the gift of health. Give P39 all-natural CBD. Use coupon code Karen for 20% off. Order now and get a free gift. Now listen to this list. P39 CBD is non-GMO, lab-tested, no pesticides, GMP certified, all natural, family owned and operated business. I couldn't even think of anything to add to that list to make it better. P39CBD.com. Stop by and see what they're all about. And if you're in Arizona, Fountain Hills exactly, make a trip, go in and say hello. Say, I'm a Paranormal Karen listener. 16810 East Ave of the Fountains, Suite 103, Fountain Hills, Arizona. P39CBD.com. Get yours now. Okay, so forgiveness is such so you're really just tapping into that kind of for us, forgiving in a way. But what if I want to stay mad, Katrina? What? No, I'm just kidding.
You get to do anything you prefer. Everybody works at their own timing. I don't go in, and by the way, this is the same way I worked as a counselor or a tarot person. I do not go in with my own agenda.
Yeah.
I don't have an agenda.
And I was sort of just making a joke, but forgiveness is a hard thing. So I almost feel like you're doing
That's
this.
a belief, by the way. Well, and if you were working with me right now, we'd be working on that belief.
Okay. So, yes, because forgiveness ties into justice, which ties into I'm right and you're wrong. Which is where I think our country hangs at.
And aren't we in an amazing, powerful time where we have this opportunity, if we so choose, to heal that?
Yes. Well, I hope so. I hope that's where we're going.
Well, guess what? We can't control where other people are going.
Right.
But like Gandhi says, my favorite, semi-quote from him here is, be the change you wish to see in the world. It starts here at home. And so we can point a finger and have judgments and fears about all these outside things. But, I've been a social activist before, and it helps to do some outward stuff. But ultimately, the real change is when we focus inward. So if I can learn from forgiveness, if I can experience it even from others, maybe somebody I may have harmed forgives me, you see. Wow. Imagine what that's like.
Yeah.
Imagine how that frees you up to shift. And all we're really talking about is how can you be more aligned with your heart and not your mind.
Yeah, because the mind comes in and has all kinds of limits. So, but here's the other part. So you're holding a space of love and light and a forgiveness prayer. That's it? I said that like it
Well,
was bad. I didn't mean it like it was
I
bad.
don't, that's definitely some of the ingredients. I don't know if it's that it, because the rest is between you and your creator.
Wow. Weird,
Yeah.
weird offshoot. Do you teach this to people or have
No,
classes?
I don't teach it. I send people to my teachers because
Okay.
the truth, so why do I do this? Let's look at that.
There.
So like I said, I retired and but then I'm always continuing to grow and work on myself and do the same things you're doing there, dear Karen. It's like asking those tough questions about forgiveness, and love. And as I continue to learn things, I love sharing it with other people. So after studying with John Newton and seeing how simple and easy, one of my gift sessions, by the way, is 20 minutes. And within 20 minutes, we can do 2 to 3 rounds. And by rounds, that means we go back in, listen to the body, possibly see an image or a memory of some sort, and then do the forgiveness prayers and allow it to resolve in some way or another. And we don't know how it's going to resolve. We just allow it to because we're open to it, to whatever degree one is open. And then, by the way, John even says this, is that it happens in layers. Because again, if you think back, going back to the roots, I've had people who've worked on the same symptom for months. And it was so deep rooted until finally we got to, I have blackberries. And if you don't get down to the root, they come back again. So we had to be patient with ourselves too, and we had to deal with that part of ourselves that says, ooh, this is not enough. Also, sometimes things happen immediately or miraculously. I did something with 4 sessions recently. And within those 4 sessions, something that had been around for a very, very long time cleared for that person. So it depends on the person. If they're ready, sometimes people aren't ready. And so we just trust whatever their process is.
Well, I always had this heaviness on my chest, and I would wake up with it in the morning. I would wake up especially, and it was like a dread. And I would wake up in the middle of the night and it was like a dread. And for years, I tried to like just hold it in light and get rid of it. And my first session with you, and you're right, maybe everybody's not going to, I'm pretty, I'm pretty flexible in the woo world. So my first session with you, it went away. And that was it 2 months ago? Whenever it was. And I think you said something about this, but I was like, even if I thought it was coming back, I just put like bricks of light in there. And I think the other day it flashed for a second and I was like, nope. But it was that fast. And I don't even know. Again, I'm going to say, I don't even know what that was. I don't know what happened there.
Yeah. Well, again, even, John says that we bring this darkness to the light and love, but don't pick the scab. Just let it heal and fall off.
I'm a big
Don't
scab
keep looking for it, in other words.
And you know what? I'm going to say this really quick, just because if anything, I might have a battery issue. So if this clicks off weird, folks, it was me. It was that. But let's get anyways to tell me all your stuff, your tarot classes, your healings. Let's get right to it, just in case something weird happens to this recording.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then if whatever we have more time for, we'll do. I know it's weird. I taped 3 podcasts in a row and I have a battery issue. So let's get the promo out and then we'll continue until we get cut off. How's that?
All right. So I don't teach people sentient clearing, but I do welcome people 3 Wednesdays out of the month. I offer what I call the gift sessions, which are 20 minutes long. Now, if those Wednesdays don't work for people, if those times don't work, I do have an alternative offer where people can pay, and it covers 2 30-minute sessions, and they get to choose on a much bigger schedule and time when to do those things. And like you very graciously said, I do have what's called a donation page, but I'm not an official donation. I would have called it a gift, but I didn't want to confuse people.
Yeah, and
So,
folks,
but it's a gift that helps me pay for the website, helps me pay for my training, and I'm always very appreciative.
yes, and also, and folks, it's $25. Click on it. Say Karen told me to pay, and also you have $25, folks. Or if you don't, you don't. But and also your 2 sessions are like $40 for 2 sessions. That's ridiculously low.
Yeah, it's just because this is my seva, this is my service, and when I put a price on it, literally, it directly goes right back into my training and to maintaining the website and the Zoom channel. So you're just reinvesting in helping other people, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Which we're all connected anyway, so it's helping yourself.
Right.
In fact, all these sessions help me. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, folks, give it.
All right, so the
give that
tarot
a
work.
shot. Okay, and now let's go to tarot. Okay, go ahead.
All right, then. Well, that would be a whole couple of shows in itself. So I've been studying and practicing tarot for over 50 years, and mostly as a solitary practitioner in the beginning. But once I became a counselor and went to graduate school and all that fun stuff, and my approach was always as a ritual because I also studied the I Ching. So to me, it was always a sacred thing. It was not a commercial thing. And when I went to graduate school, I started thinking, and then plus I was studying process work and going, how can I do a process-oriented spread that covers a lot of the same magic that happens with the transformation that can happen in a tarot spread? And anyway, just long story short, more people started asking me to teach and to do sessions. And in other words, Creator was asking me to come out. And each people were the voice of Creator. And I do tend to use the word Creator. But, and so it wasn't of my plan. I just followed the guidance. And then Creator kept adding more onto it. Okay, now we want you to teach online. And then a little over a year ago, Creator says, okay, I've got a whole nother thing I want you to do. I want you to create a whole new online school because I already had 2. And it's this goingprowithtarot.com. And I'm working, oh my gosh, I've been working very hard on it. But what I've done is I've taken like something that in the past would have been like an hour and a half. Think of Zoom where you have a PowerPoint and a video and interactions maybe and lots of handouts. But now breaking it down to a whole different format where it's in bite-sized pieces. People can study at their own pace. It's well organized and has a sort of like basically an overriding topic broken down into sections, which I call weeks. And then the weeks are broken up into chapters, and the chapters are broken up into lessons, and there's videos and demonstrations, and sometimes even have guest friends who are tarot people come in and do little guest lessons, and it's very rich, and I'm having so much fun, even though it's a lot of work. But it's going to be so enriching for people.
And what is it called again? Go Tarot Pro?
Going
Pro
with tarot. And my particular, so my, many, many years ago, I think it was 1994, I put my first website together because I was already calling my work tarot counseling because I wanted people to know, because I was invited to do psychic fairs. And I go, everybody's doing fortune telling. I don't do fortune telling. I do now, but I don't use tarot for it. Mary Greer and I, by the way, are really good friends. And we both say this. We go, if we want to do fortune telling, we go to the Lenormand cards or Lenormand, as some people say. Yeah, that's straight ahead fortune telling because that's what they're designed to do. But when I work with tarot or I teach people tarot, basically what I've done in the past is I've taught tarot people how to integrate counseling and ethics and to create more transformative readings for their clients.
That's great.
Within the scope of practice. Now what I'm doing is I've got a lot more counselors who I'm teaching to integrate tarot and oracles into the modalities that they're already familiar with. So, for instance, if they're a Jungian, there's a variety of ways of bringing tarot and oracle cards into creating more access to the unconscious material of your clients. So that's my new part of my school, which is going to be the level 5. I'm hoping to have it started by next April. But so this is Creator. Creator gave me an assignment, and I go, okay, Creator, I'll do that. Because I get downloads. You get downloads, Creator talks to you intuitively or psychically, and you just say, okay, I've been given my assignment. Bam, there we go. Because
Yes.
I'm shy. I'm an introvert and I live out in the woods.
And I am on your website, and everything is so reasonable. Now, I have to ask you that. We still have a little battery left. You don't have cell service where you live. Where are you, and how can we all get there? I think I am not crazy about 5G and any of that stuff, but you're in Oregon, right?
I'm in Oregon.
Oops. I'm sorry. My phone did something. Hold on, folks. Um, there. Okay. Go ahead. You're in Oregon, right?
Yeah, I live off the central coast of Oregon. I live in the woods, but not too far from the ocean. So the trees and the river, they're my friends, and that's who I live with. I'll put it that way. And so it's so remote. There's no cellular service so I'm very happy about that.
Yeah.
So I unplugged from the rest of the world a long time ago. But you're wondering, we're on the phone, but I do a lot of work on the internet because my phone line has fiber optics.
There you go. Well, yeah.
I can plug in with the Ethernet cable. If I need to, I'll use Wi-Fi, but I try not to.
Yeah, we're all, that's the thing. Even those of us here that are trying to unplug can't quite unplug because your neighbor has Wi-Fi.
Exactly. It's so difficult. I get that. And so, I'll travel. I used to do a Tarot tour. I did my Tarot tours for at least 10 years, and I would travel and teach, go to different meetup groups and teach at Tarot conferences. And I found that in most places, especially New York City, I go there every April for Reader Studio, which is the largest Tarot conference in the world, sometimes teaching, vending, whatever. And it didn't bother me too much because I knew I could come back home again. But when I go to London, almost every time I get toxically ill from all the, I'll just call it radiation.
Really? They're worse than us?
Well, yeah, because they have so much surveillance and there's other things going on. So if you're in the city, especially on one of the main arteries, one of the main streets, or near like a railroad station or something like that, yeah, a lot of surveillance going on.
Wow, I'm a little worried we're 2 steps away from that, but you found your spot, so we'll all be guided, right?
I didn't even, and by the way, that's a whole nother story in itself. The trees guided me to be here. I didn't even, they told me what to look for, and I looked for a while, and I didn't find it, and I gave up for a year, and then I stumbled upon this place. So, when you follow your guidance, which means you follow your heart, but Joseph Campbell said, follow your bliss. It will guide you, and it's so much more important than what your mind or your ego says, or your fear says. Ooh, I have to do this to survive. No, follow your heart.
And that should also be a class you teach. Because it's you make it sound so easy.
Here's the other thing, and I do want to share this quote from John because he basically says most folks, let's say they're saying the serenity prayer, but it doesn't mean anything unless they're living it. He was using that as an example. So where you are right now, maybe teachers can inspire you or guide you or remind you, but ultimately it comes to you. How open are you? Are you open to change? Are you open to love? Are you open to light? Are you open to facing your fears? There's so many wonderful teachers out there. And I'm just offering a service right now because, to be a teacher, I enjoy teaching Tarot. But guess what? Even when I teach Tarot, I'm teaching these same values and how to integrate them into yourself as a reader, as well as into the reading itself with the cards. So I am doing that work. I just do it through a different channel. And think of it as changing channels, literally. Like a radio, changing channels.
Well,
I'm on the Tarot. It's Tarot Counseling. It's actually tarotcounseling.org. O-R-G like Oregon.
Okay. Tarot, okay. And you are just a delight. And our battery made it. And folks, check out the website, book a session, make a donation, look at her classes. They look great. Everything is reasonably priced. And I'm sure I don't have to sell you after that fantastic interview. So, did we get...
Karen, you are also a delight because you know how to help people lighten their hearts through humor and looking at those difficult things like forgiveness. So bless you and thank you for your passion and your work in the world.
Well, thank you. Now I'm blushing.
Yeah.
Or I'm having a hot flash. One of the two.
You're aligning with it. Just allow.
Awesome. Well, thank you, my friend. It's sentientclearing.org and Going Pro with Tarot. If you put in Going Pro with Tarot put that in, your page comes
That
right.
one's .com.
.com.
And
okay.
then tarotcounseling.com. So if you go to .org. If you go to tarotcounseling.org, go to the contact page. And if you do, check off the little box for my newsletter, and that way you can keep up with what I'm doing.
There you go. That's perfect. All right. Thank you, my friend. I'm sure you're going to have a flood of new people on your newsletter and booking appointments and what so. So thank you so much.
Many blessings to you and to everyone, because these are exciting times.
Yes, that's a very good way to say that. So, all right, folks, we'll see you in 2 weeks. Thanks to Mike at Uno Rising Media. I hope I'm seeing you out on the show, out on the road on some shows on my website. You can click on upcoming shows. I'll put up some ads for it. And thanks for everybody for listening.
Paranormal Karen, she's a spooky kind of queen. Paranormal Karen.